Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. This is your host, Wayne Bradley. I want to welcome you on this Friday. Thank you, everybody that's listening in. This was kind of like a last-second broadcast here, so I just want to thank everybody that's listening in. I have two great guests on the show today, Congressman Mike Rogers and also Dr. Dan Benishek, who is running in the Congressman for Bart Stupak seat here in Michigan. So I want to thank everybody for listening in. We got a lot going on this Friday. A lot's been going on this week. I want to tell everybody to check out the website, conservativescool.com. We've got some great updates and great polls on what's going on out here. The call-in number is 347-996-3175. I want to hear from you today. We got a lot going on. Let me go to the switchboard real quick and also go on to Twitter. Again, my Twitter address is WBConservative. I want to thank everyone that's listening in. Just making sure we have all our guests on here. Now, the call-in number is 347-996-3175. I want you to call in, and we're going to talk about everything that's going on in the world of politics right now. Oh, we actually have been given a new number, 213-325-3434. We'll also open up the chat room. Close up that switchboard and open again. The call-in number is 347-996-3175. Now, my first person we're going to talk to today, who I thought was a very interesting perspective. We got a lot of turmoil that's going on in the country right now. You see a lot of people torn apart on a lot of different issues. I think it's been very interesting watching over the last couple of weeks, in particular with the Republican Party and the way that they've handled the O'Donnell situation in Delaware. You see that right now you have a struggle between what we call the party faithful, and now you have with the Tea Party candidates, who, again, I thought were doing a good thing by challenging conservatives to be conservatives. It seems that sometimes they have a problem with these guys because they're not polished and haven't went to the same Ivy League schools and things of that nature. And see, I think that came off as a big turnoff. I was very surprised to hear the way that Karl Rove, in particular, attacked Kathy O'Donnell after she won. So it's going to be very interesting moving forward, listening to how the establishment handles these candidates, because they're not your typical Republicans. I heard the fact that Karl Rove used the fact that she had some financial difficulties. And, I mean, again, that correlates with everybody else in this country. I mean, that, to me, should not be something that you would hold against a person and make that to be the reason why that person wouldn't be a good candidate. So it's going to be very interesting over the next couple months watching exactly what happens. My first guest is someone who I respect deeply. He's been a congressman for quite a while there, and I want to bring him onto the show, Mike Rogers. Welcome to Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. Today my guest is someone who I consider a real champion for the people, Congressman Mike Rogers. How are you doing today, sir?
Sir, I am doing fantastic, and thanks for having me on today. I certainly do appreciate it, Wayne.
No problem. We have a lot going on here in our country, and we're going in a very strange path right now. The first thing I wanted to ask you about is this apparent DREAM Act that they're trying to push through here in the lame duck session. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it drives you crazy because they're trying to attach it to the defense bill, and this is a bill to take care of the men and women who serve the United States proudly, who volunteer to serve in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, the northern horn of Africa, the Philippines, and for them to attach it to this makes no sense to me whatsoever. What it is a back way to get to amnesty for millions of folks who broke the law to be here.
Right.
And we've just got to be serious. If we think that the law for immigration is the way it should be, and I think most Americans say there should be a way for you to come here legally,
right,
then we have to support them coming here legally. And this is just one more way to kind of circumvent the process.
Do you think this is more of a political trick more than anything else?
Oh, absolutely. No, there's no doubt in my mind that they are doing this and other bills just more for politics than they are for substance. And that ought to anger everybody. Even if you like the idea of amnesty, I don't. But this is no way to get to your point to where you want to accomplish if this is what you're trying to do. And so it's clearly, Wayne, nothing but politics as usual out of Washington, D.C.
Now, wasn't that part of the change that this administration promised that they would do, that it wasn't going to be politics as usual?
Well, I have to tell you, I really did believe that he was going to come in, President Obama was going to come in and kind of change this and have more sit-downs and be less partisan. And I can't tell you how disappointed I am. I think that this president will go down as one of the most partisan presidents we have ever had. And with Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and the president, there's nobody sitting in the room that says, hey, wait a minute, isn't there a better idea? And I do think that this is exactly what people are angry about, have been angry about, and were angry about even when they voted for President Obama.
Right. So from your standpoint, he hasn't reached out at all to the other side of the aisle.
Oh, no. Matter of fact, it's been very, very excluding to the Republicans. And they spend a lot of time talking about Republicans and no time talking to Republicans back in Washington, D.C. And, we were eager to have conversations with them during the health care debate. And now you've got this bill that is wildly unpopular. There were no alternative ideas even allowed in the bill. Same with cap and trade. Same with all the new regulations on small business. Never ever was willing to reach out and have a conversation on any of these issues, and that was, I think, unfortunate. It's not good for America, no matter what party you are.
Right. Now, that was something I was going to ask you about also with this health care bill, because, we're actually starting to discover more and more about this bill as time goes on. What are some of the more ominous and ugly things that you've, read about this bill now that we're discovering, obviously, more about it?
And sadly enough, Wayne, it was 2,700 pages. And so any member of Congress told you that they read it before they voted on it I don't believe is being quite truthful.
Right.
It took me almost a month after the vote to finish reading this bill. It was the most complicated reading. And I'll tell you why. You had to read 100 pages, and then it would refer you to a whole other section of the law. So if you really wanted to understand what you just read, you had to go to that other section of the law and read that, and then come back and keep reading. Then another 100 pages, another section of the law. And here's some of the things that they did in there, that's maddening. One is that, and it's happening today, if you're getting ready to get on Medicare, doctors are in large numbers stopping to take new Medicare patients.
Right.
Because of what this bill does to them. And that's real. That's not pretend. That's what's happening today with doctors. And you have a whole other issue in there, and this is one of those small ones, and I think it's really a good example of what happens in this bill. There was something called the Health Preventive Services Board that's supposed to recommend, it was non-binding, and it's a board that's in place today, to doctors about the kinds of care that might be the best. Well, they made this recommendation about a year ago that said women who are between 40 and 49 don't necessarily need a mammogram every single year.
Okay.
Now, that sent the cancer, and I'm a cancer survivor, so I watch this stuff pretty closely, into orbit, right?
Right.
Exactly the wrong message. Well, the Democrats at the time said, well, don't worry, it's non-binding. Well, in their own bill, they made this Health Preventive Services Group, they changed the name, and they said in their bill that all of the recommendations are now going to become law as a part of this new federal exchange. So what that meant in practicality was that a woman between 40 and 49 could not even buy a health insurance plan that would cover mammograms between those age groups.
Wow.
Yeah, and so they go, well, gee, that wasn't our intent. But that's what the bill did. And so the bill raises taxes and regulations on small business, makes it harder for them to provide health care. It takes away a woman's ability to even buy an insurance plan between 40 and 49 to get mammogram. And that's the problem with 2,700 pages that nobody read, that they tried to ram through the Congress. and say, aren't we great, we did something, and we gave you something. The problem is it is costing us all kinds of opportunity to do better care, better access, and it's also raising rates. So, Wayne, you can see that's why so many Americans are already standing up going, hey, wait a minute, this thing's terrible.
Right. Now, one of the questions I would ask you, what could be done to improve the bill? I know that you have your own solutions, which I think is actually a breath of fresh air, because we're, from the people's standpoint, a lot of people are looking at it and watching Congress, the Republicans tell the president no.
Right.
So where are your ideas, and what do you think we can do to improve the bill?
Yeah, here's what I did, Wayne. The president came to Congress last year and said, here's my principle. More competition amongst healthcare, amongst insurance companies, tort reform. We have to do something about tort reform. We need something for pre-existing conditions. And you know what? In principle, I agreed with every one of those statements. Absolutely.
Right.
So what I did is I gathered up all the bills that fixed those problems without the government trying to run healthcare in America, and I presented it last year. And again, unfortunately, they wouldn't even consider any of it. And let me give you a great example. Right today, Michigan Blue Cross Blue Shield controls about 80-some% of the healthcare market, and you're really not allowed to go anywhere else to buy it.
Right.
Interesting, because I could drive down to Indianapolis, Indiana today if I wanted to, and buy a car, buy my car insurance, buy my house insurance, my life insurance, my optical insurance, my dental insurance.
Right.
It is against the law for me to buy against the federal law for me to buy Blue Cross Blue Shield of Indiana, even though it may be cheaper.
Wow.
Yeah. And my argument was, the reason the insurance companies got you over a barrel is because the law says that they don't have to compete with the company right across the border in Indiana. And we don't do that in anything else that we buy.
Right.
And so it is artificially raise the prices for everybody. And that's just a simple one. And then if we do tort reform, as the president said, and as I told you earlier, I'm a cancer survivor, so what is the best way for us to make insurance companies say, well, because of that pre-existing condition, I'm not going to cover you? Now, we can just mandate it, which they did, and guess what happens to rates when you just mandate it?
They go sky high.
Sky high. Because an insurance agent has to come in and say, all right, I'm going to sell Wayne and Mike Rogers a health care plan. Now, Rogers had cancer, right?
Right.
And Wayne, he's a healthy guy, so I'm going to base my premiums on the fact that Rogers is likely to cost me a ton of money. Guess who's going to pay for that? Both of us.
Right.
So your rates are going up because of me. And so what I did is propose this thing called catastrophic funds, so that that at a cap, let's say $250,000, everybody, if you have a health care plan, God forbid that happens to anybody, but that you get to that, oh my God, I'm $250,000 into this thing, you go to another fund. It's called a catastrophic fund that we all pay into.
Right.
And when they say, well, what does that do? So if I get cancer and it costs $500,000, the first $250 is on my insurance company. The next whatever is into this reinsurance fund.
Okay.
And so what does that mean to you and me? Well, then now when I come to you and I say I'm an insurance agent, I want to sell you a great health care plan, I know that my total liability is only $250,000. Now, it's not $1 million. I might be $1 million, right?
Right.
So now I get to lower your rates because everybody's going to pay a little lower because I know how much money I'm going to be out. So that means that they can still sell to me, cancer survivor, and our rates are low, and everybody still gets this catastrophic coverage. That is a much better way. It's cheaper.
Right.
It works. The economy works in that, and everybody gets taken care of. And those are things that we could have done without creating 154 brand new agencies under this health care bill, 154 that didn't exist before to take care of your health care. I mean, that's only going to cost us money, and it's only going to be confusing, and it's only going to get more expensive.
Well, and you said the president kind of didn't even listen to that kind of proposal.
No, and I have to tell you, it just completely bummed me out, is he came to the Republican conference and said, listen, you guys got to come up with ideas. Well, we already have these, and we said, Mr. President, we've sent them to the White House. And he said, well, I wasn't aware of that. I'll take a look at them. The very next day in a speech, right after we had just told him in person that there are other ideas, here's the bill, here's the material, he went to somewhere on the East Coast and gave a political speech and said that Republicans don't have any ideas on how pounded his fist on the podium. I mean, it was clearly a political calculation that they're going to try to make Republicans look like the party of no. And what it is that they just didn't want to have anything to do with any idea that wasn't theirs. And that's no way to be a president, no way to run the House, from Nancy Pelosi's perspective. We always function better when we have all the ideas at the table.
Sure doesn't sound like the change that he promised before, does it?
No, it really doesn't, and it really doesn't. And that's what's been so disappointing. I think there's a woman that stood up in one of his town halls just recently and said that very same thing. She was tired of defending the president for all the things that she voted for him for, believing that he was going to provide that change. He just hasn't done it.
Do you think that this bill will eventually be repealed or defunded?
Well, I hope so, because there's so much bad news in it. I think it's going to take a lot of work. And here's the thing. I think if we repeal it and we offer these real-life solutions, Wayne,
right,
then I think people will be with us. I really do. If we just said, no, we're going to repeal it and go back the way it was, I think people go, hey, wait a minute.
Right.
But there are real-life solutions that we can provide that will make a difference in people's lives, and they're having access to good health care. And I'll tell you why that's important for people out there kind of going, I'm not so sure. Think about what they've just done. Most people are going to have to go, middle-class Americans, lower-income Americans are going to be pushed into this federal exchange. Employers are already saying they're going to drop coverage and make people go into the federal exchange.
Right.
That's just what they've said they're going to do. It's going to happen. So that means that people who will go into that exchange will have to stand in the back of the line, will have less access to better care, and the people with money in this country will be able to go out and buy with cash good health care.
Right, and that was
the very thing that we said we were going to stop. They're creating 2 tiers of health care in America, where now if you have an insurance plan, if you're lucky enough to have the insurance plan, you're as good off as the guy who is filthy rich in this country.
Right.
You all get treated the same because it pays the same. Now they've created a system that says, all of you that don't have it, we're going to lump all of you folks in to one place. You're all going to have to stand in line. Rogers, you're just a middle-class average dude. You're going to have to go and stand in line. Oh, by the way, the rich guys that are going to go out and pay cash, find a doctor to take cash, you're going to get everything you want, and you're going to get it as soon as you want. I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's totally wrong. And again, I think that's where people get this idea that the president maybe is looking to socialize America.
Yeah, I do. I mean, he comes by honestly. I think he just believes that the government will do it better in all cases than the private sector.
Right.
And for 230 years, the reason we have the largest economy, the largest middle class, and it's not perfect by any means, is because we believe that the best solution comes from the private sector, people who are actually hiring somebody for a job. Those are where the best ideas come from. And I think when we interfere with that too much, this is what you get. You get longer recessions, deeper, higher unemployment rates, because the government doesn't make those decisions very well. The government does do some things well, but they don't run businesses well.
Right. No, they definitely don't do that. Have you got a lot of support from the Republican Party on your proposed legislation for the American Health Care Solution Act?
We did. And we think if we ever have the chance to talk to Democrats, that we can get a lot of Democrats on board as well. That's the good news. So people are there. They're excited about it. It's real alternatives that will have a real impact on people having access. You know, the number one reason, Wayne, that people can't get access to health care is cost.
Right.
It costs too much. Yes, the president's bill raises the cost and lumps people together. Ours actually lowers the cost. It says everybody's going to have access to an insurance plan that gets you that is good, if not better, care than anybody else in your neighborhood.
I think it's that kind of arrogance and not listening to others that's riled up so many people, including like with the Tea Party movement. What do you think of the Tea Party movement and its effectiveness?
Well, you know, what it has done is, I mean, it is a group of individuals, and I've gone to talk to them, and they're not these crazy people. I think the party system wants to say, oh, they're crazy and terrible and awful and kooky, and, listen, I've been there. Most of them are women. A lot of them are moms, and they are very concerned about the fiscal issues and kind of taking, having the government get more involved in people's lives that really never works out all that well. So I think it's been good, and I see independents there, I've Democrats there, I've seen Republicans there. And I think they have made a mistake by trying to demonize it, say, well, it's bad. We're going to make those people look really kooky and awful and terrible.
And that's not just from the Democratic side. That's
the Republicans. And I think it's a mistake. These are just average good folks who are showing up and raising their hands, saying, "Hey, wait a minute, this is not what I signed up for. I want my country to go in a different direction." I think at the end of the day, it's a positive thing.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. As far as you come from an FBI background, and I'm sure the defense of this country is very important to you. How do you feel like the president's handled the defense of this country?
Well, I mean, I think he's done some things right, some things wrong. I get very, very concerned that they've decided that we can't talk about jihad or radical Islam.
Right.
Like somehow if we don't mention it, it's going to go away. That part I just think is a disaster waiting to happen. We have to take seriously the fact that people are plotting to kill innocent men, women, and children on behalf of their political and religious beliefs. And we need to deal with it head on. And you don't deal with the problem head on by not talking about it. We certainly apply that in our personal lives, right? You don't talk about a problem in your personal life, it's not going to go away. It only gets worse.
Right.
And to say that we're not going to do it, to not treat somebody who wanted to blow up an airplane over Detroit like an enemy combatant, I don't know what else you could call that. He wanted to, he was trained overseas, recruited overseas, financed overseas. The battlefield was seat 9A that he was sitting on.
Right.
The battlefield changed for them. They were trying to take it to us, and to think that somehow that we're going to treat him, and he's a foreigner at that, and give him the citizens of the United States citizen, or the rights of a United States citizen, just doesn't make sense to me.
And it almost appears that we are getting to the point where we're treating the terrorists with more respect and more empathy than we are allies, like with Israel.
Exactly, and if you remember what they did to Poland and Czechoslovakia by poking them in the eye on the defense,
right,
missile defense. I mean, those allies are still mad at us. You have, the Brits are kind of mad at us. The French said we need to toughen up, and anytime you get the French saying, "Hey, you need to toughen up a little bit,"
we're in some we're in some bad space. Well, and one other thing I want to ask you about is our dependence on foreign oil.
Yeah.
I've read some of your blogs, and I saw that you have a very good plan, a 10-point plan. How is it important that we get off the dependence of foreign oil?
Oh, it's huge. We send billions of dollars to people who don't like us very much, like the Russians or the Saudis or the Venezuelans. And anytime we can stop buying their oil and keep that money in the United States, we're better off. And here, my 10-point plan is this, though. Because a lot of people say, it's all going to be windmills, or it's all going to be, and this is the government trying to plan your life again.
Right.
Well, it's all going to be windmills. It's all going to be solar. You're going to have to drive a car that's a little bit bigger than a roller skate. Good luck with you and your 3 kids, right?
Right.
What this plan says is, no, the government can't drive you that way. We should be involved in wind and solar. But you know what? Sometimes the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. So we need to be wind and solar, and we need to be aggressive on nuclear power. It has 0 emissions at the stack, and it's a long, sustainable energy source for us that makes us competitive. It does 2 things. It reduces our dependency on foreign oil, and it makes us more competitive because our energy rates are competitive to build things. And you can't be a great nation, Wayne, you know this, if we don't build things.
Right.
And so this 10-point plan, if we'd have enacted it when I introduced it, would have had us off of buying overseas foreign oil in 2016.
Wow.
We wouldn't have had to buy another barrel, and we would have been self-sustaining, and the market would have driven it, not the government. As I fear that, I remember now we were all going to be the leaders in windmills, and all 50 states decided they wanted to be leaders in windmills.
Right.
Not everybody can build a windmill in all 50 states. The math doesn't work. And so we've gotten ourselves into this thing where every government, subsidize all 50 of them. When the government subsidies go away, there is no way that 50 different operations around the country to try to build windmills is going to be sustainable. You and I both know that.
Right.
I think your listeners know that as well. So that's why we have to do things like be aggressive on nuclear power. And sure, we can have wind and solar, but you doesn't work that way.
Right. Well, if people wanted to know more about your 10-point plan and also follow you, your campaign, what would be the website address they could go to?
That is mikerogers.house.gov for the official stuff and all those bills. Or you can get on, if you're interested in the campaign stuff, Mike Rogers for Congress, or RogersForCongress.com.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, you're a true advocate for the people, so I really appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to you. You're welcome to come back on anytime.
Wade, thank you for having me, and thanks for being a voice of reason out there. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You have a blessed day, sir.
You too, man. Take care.
Bye-bye. And that was Congressman Mike Rogers on the show. I don't know if anybody heard yesterday. Ahmadinejad was at the UN yesterday in America, in New York, and he, again, in his almost customary style, goes in and just talks bad about America in a way that, again, only in a country where you can enjoy the freedoms that you have, the liberties that you have to talk about our government, because you couldn't do that over there. If somebody went over there and did that, in particular, their own citizens can't do that, but he comes over here and says that we're responsible for 9/11. I think it's almost a criminal that we allow this man to come over here and do that in our country. But again, we do extend those liberties to even people like himself. I want to hear what you have to say, America. Give me a call. The call-in number is 213-325-3434. So we got a new number now. It's 213-325-3434. My next guest I'll be having on the show is Dr. Dan Benishek. He is going to be hopefully winning the seat up in northern Michigan that Bart Stupak was holding, who pretty much sold out the country for his vote on the health care vote. He was a person that was considered pro-life for his whole time in Congress, but yet and still, at the end of the day, he voted for the health care bill and then decided not to run again. I don't know if it was his conscience or if he knew he was going to lose anyway, but he decided not to run again. So we're going to have Dr. Dan Benishek on the show. And again, the call-in number is 213-325-3434. You know what? I'm sorry, folks. If you're calling that number, I thought that was strange. They've rearranged some things here on the switchboard. I apologize. The call-in number is still the same, the classic number, 347-996-3175. I apologize if I've been sending anybody to that other number. The call-in number is 347-996-3175. Again, I don't know if you saw the speech yesterday, but again, it blows my mind that people come to America and desecrate our flag, talk bad about us, do whatever they want to do, and they don't realize that this is the country that gives people their freedom. And again, that's why Iran resents us so much. They said that we caused 9/11 to create an economic boom in America and to also protect Israel. I don't see, again, that it's that kind of foolishness, and that President Obama actually thinks that he can sit down and talk to this guy. I mean, they won't tell us what they're doing with their nuclear program, and they've been totally non-compliant on that. So I think the president's fooling himself by thinking that he can somehow, be friends with these people if they want to negotiate. Their culture respects the power of the gun. Talking is when they're talking to us, they feel like they've already won. They don't have any interest in talking. They want to see our demise as a country, and I think that he needs to treat it as such. And I'm really hoping that at some point some of the people that are going to get behind him, some of the people, his advisors, I noticed a lot of his advisors, Axelrod is out, his economic advisors are out. A lot of people are jumping off this ship before it goes down. And I hope maybe that he'll get some new blood in there, some people that have been looking from the outside that can observe and tell him what he's been doing wrong, because he brought his Chicago machine with him, and a lot of those guys are ready to get back to Chicago. Axelrod is going back. He said he'd be helping on the campaign. You got Rahm Emanuel, who's actually looking at running for mayor of Chicago, I guess he won't have to worry about running against Jesse Jackson Jr. anymore, who's having a few issues out there. So, I mean, it really does, you know, somebody, I hope some voices of reason will get in there and talk to the president. Gates will be leaving next year. So, I mean, you have a lot of people that are jumping off in 2011. So there is a chance that some good advisors and some people with some knowledge that can really help him turn around the way the direction of his presidency is going maybe can help him out. I don't know if he'll hire those kind of people, but let's hope so. That's the best we can hope right now. So it's some very trying times to hear. You know, people all throughout the country are. You know, I can't blame the unemployment and everything strictly on the president, but I think it's safe to say that stimulus plan didn't work, and that we shouldn't go in that same direction again. We shouldn't spend more. Spending more is obviously not creating jobs. That is not bringing in. Buying out jobs is not helping the situation right now. I think we've learned that now, and I think that all I can hope is that we won't do it again. They're actually proposing right now another bailout. That is what the president has his eyes on. They're thinking that another bailout is needed and necessary, and I don't think that would be the right direction. I mean, in every other walk of life, me and you folks, we cannot spend our way out of debt. You can't just give us more money and not pay off the debt. At some point, we have to start looking at this responsibly, and that's everybody. Some of the systems and things that we have in place now are destined to fail this country. A lot of it are programs and entitlements that we think that, that my generation, basically, I'm 34 years old, Social Security and things like that are really not going to be around by the time I've actually put into the system. So I think that, things are going to have to be done differently, and this country's we're going to have to suck it up and make some changes. And some of these new candidates that are coming in, that I even think that the Republican Party has a problem with, I think a lot of these people are the antidote to that because they're not lifelong politicians. You hope that they won't get sucked in, they won't become intoxicated with the D.C. life and the perks that come along with these jobs, but you just hope that you're putting in regular people that'll see through all this and do the right thing. So with that being said, I'm going to bring on Dr. Dan Benishek soon because, again, I think that's the problem. We need people that represent normal people that have lived in a regular life, realize that they can't spend our way out of problems. I mean, that is just not realistic for you and me, so it shouldn't be realistic for our government. I mean, at some point, we've got to pay the bill. I know that hurts, and we've got to do the things now to stop creating a bigger bill. Children being born right now are coming into $40,000 in tax burden already. I think that's unbelievably unfair. I think people are going to look back at this generation and consider this the credit maxed out generation, the generation that ran up everything, and we will be paying for it for the next 30 to 50 years. I mean, at least the next 30 years is going to be paying out this debt, but we're going to have to start now. We are spending at a rate that no president, no administration has ever done before, but he thought this was the way to get out of the situation, and it hasn't worked. So we just got to hope that, like I said, new advisors, new ideas will get the president and his people to move in a different direction. And at the same time, as a country, we have an obligation to put in the right kind of people wherever you live as your next leaders, 2010, 2012. We need to stop looking at the certain people that are, just because of their educational background or their family status or whatever, that those are our best candidates. I just don't think that that's the right thing to do. So my next guest is Dr. Dan Benishek. He's running for Congress in Michigan's 1st District. Again, like I said, he'll be hopefully taking the chair of the retiring Bart Stupak, who sold out America for his health care vote. So go ahead and listen to the interview with Dr. Dan Benishek. Welcome to Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. Today, folks, I have someone in my studio that I'm welcoming to the show, and again, I tell everyone how important it is that we must look at all the conservative candidates throughout the country that are running for Congress, because the seat that this man hopefully will fill is the seat that sold out America to the abortion rights on the health care bill. Dr. Benishek, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Wayne. Pleasure being here.
Great. First of all, I want to know what made you decide to run for Congress?
Well, really, it was the stimulus bill that put me over the top, Wayne. I thought about that. They spent nearly $1 trillion of money we didn't have, our children's tax dollars on a bill they didn't read.
Right.
And I just couldn't stand around and do nothing.
Now, are you familiar with Representative Stupak? Do you know him in that area?
Well, I've seen him a few times, but I don't say that I really know him.
How disappointed were people that he ended up being the person that ended up selling us out, basically, on this health care bill in your area?
Well, everybody realized that he betrayed our values.
Right.
And I think he's persona non grata in the district. I would think he'd have a very difficult time being reelected, and that's why he decided to bow out.
Right. What would be the first thing you would do if elected to Congress? What would be one of your first issues to handle?
Well, the excessive spending. That's why I got into this race. Hopefully we have a Republican Congress, at least in the House, and we'll put a stop to a lot of this ridiculous spending. We won't fund any of this deficit. So I'm hoping that that's what we can do.
Okay, so you would think that just defunding the health care bill would probably be the best way to tackle it, as opposed to repealing it?
Well, I'd like to repeal the whole thing, but without the president on board, that may be difficult. But we're going to certainly, I'm going to certainly attempt to defund it as much as I possibly can, and delay its implementation until we can get it repealed.
Now, you're a doctor, right?
Right. I'm a general surgeon.
So what do you think some of the bigger problems with this health care bill are that'll affect the average American?
Well, it doesn't really address the problems in the healthcare system. I mean, it doesn't address the costs. It's just going to add another whole layer of costs with the government bureaucracy. The real problem in healthcare is the cost, and it just doesn't solve those problems. I mean, I'm thinking that we need, reform and increase competition in the health insurance industry. There's very little competition in that industry because you can't compete across state lines due to state and federal laws, and those have to be revised so that we can have more competition in the health insurance business.
Right. That's got to be the only business where you can't go to another state and actually purchase a product. I was talking just recently with Congressman Mike Rogers, and he compared it, saying that we can go to Indianapolis and buy us a car insurance, but the only thing we can't do is go and get health insurance. And I think that would be a good idea, is to release some of these state lines and the bureaucracy.
Right. I mean, there's no, in car insurance we have Geico, we have Progressive, we have State Farm, we have all those companies that we can go to shop. But in the health insurance business, you're limited to your state. And in Michigan, pretty much the only place you can go is Blue Cross.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a key issue. Then they don't address tort reform. I mean, that's a big cost factor in health insurance. And, just having another layer of government bureaucrats and politicians and government lawyers overseeing our healthcare system, and then determining what healthcare we can get.
Right.
With oversight boards and that's just ridiculous. I mean, the decision-making should be between the physician, the patient, and the family.
Right.
Not, some bureaucrat in Washington.
Now, you being from Michigan, we're considered a border state. What do you think we need to do to improve our border security and, obviously, the whole issue right now with illegal immigrants?
Well, the southern border, of course, is a mess.
Right.
If we can put a man on the moon back in the 60s, I think we should be able to build a fence.
Right.
You know what I mean? And put a stop to that.
So,
I don't know about how we're going to get. We need to do that first.
Right. That would be the best deterrent. You build a fence, that makes it a lot more difficult.
I mean, there's all kinds of people coming in here. There are drugs coming in here. We need to put a stop to it. And then we need to, have people come to this country legally, not illegally. I don't favor amnesty. I think people should come in here in a legal fashion, be proud of the fact that they came here legally. I mean, my grandparents came here as immigrants, but they came legally. They learned English. They became citizens, and they became voters. But they did it all through a legal process, not coming here illegally. Is that any way to start your citizenship, by crossing the border illegally? Right.
So you're obviously not a big fan of this new DREAM Act that they're trying to push across here at the last second.
No, I think we should, put a fence at the border, and then I'm not sure we're going to get rid of every single illegal, but we should try to get rid of most of the illegals.
Right. That would be a very good start to getting this country, because people don't realize that those illegals are another big issue why our job market is in the shape it's in. Those are a lot of those jobs that American citizens would, at this point, would love to have.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, they're taking our jobs, they're using our resources. I mean, they're filling our hospitals, our schools, and our prisons, and we're paying for it.
Right. Now, for fiscal responsibility, I noticed I was reading through your campaign website, and I thought that was a good idea, the 4 R's. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, read it, reduce it, repeal it, and reform it. That's basically the platform I'm running on. We need to read the legislation. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is why I got in the race in the first place, is that we're voting for representatives that pass bills without reading them. I can't believe it. This is not what we want in our representation. We want people to read the bills. And they say, well, they're too long to read. Well, then we have to make them shorter. If we vote no on them every time, then we'll get smaller bills. And then we need to reduce the size of the federal government, reduce spending, reduce taxes. Our economy is not going to come back with this level of deficit spending. Nobody wants to invest because of the uncertainty involved in this huge deficit that we have. I mean, who wants to invest in the climate of today? You don't know what your taxes are going to be. You don't know what your health care costs are going to be. There's just too much uncertainty. We need to repeal Obamacare. Like as I said, it's a complete disaster. It's going to wreck our health care system. And we need to reform government and bring it back to our constitutional roots.
And people need to understand this is coming from a doctor. This is not a career politician, right?
All right. No, I never ran for anything before in my life. I'm just sick of what's going on there, and I think that America is tired of it as well, and we need some citizens in Congress to represent the values of our home districts.
Right. Now, have you been involved with the Tea Parties at all?
Well, I've been to about, I don't know how many Tea Parties, 20 of them maybe.
Okay.
And it's been great because there's a lot of concerned citizens there. It's a great forum for candidates to speak on the issues, and it's a great source for votes.
Have you seen that? Have you noticed that they have actually made the conservatives, the Republicans, actually have to stand straight up? They're not letting Republicans get by either at this point with just the same old answers.
Well, you can't be the party of cutting taxes and increasing spending.
Right.
We have to address both those issues, and I think the most important issue is the spending. And that's what we failed to do in the past, and I think the leadership understands that now, and that we put together a plan of decreased spending and decreased taxes.
Right. Have you had a chance, or have you reviewed most of that health care bill? I mean, it's 2,700 pages, so most people probably haven't read all the way through it. Is there anything that stands out to you in that bill that just is appalling to you?
I think that the oversight committees, deciding what you can get for your, what kind of health care you're going to get is the worst part, whereas some bureaucrats are going to decide whether or not the care that you want to provide for your patient is necessary or not is the worst. It's strictly a rationing program, and those decisions need to be made between the physician and the patient and the family, not some bureaucrat. That's the worst part about it, I think.
Now, you're a proponent for right to life. Does this bill still include the language in there that's going to allow for federally funded abortions?
Well, I believe it does. Yes, sir. And that's another appalling part of it as well. Everybody in this country realizes that, well, I guess not everybody, but I certainly believe that we shouldn't be funding abortions.
Right.
Shouldn't be performing abortions. And, that's another part of the bill that's appalling.
Okay. Now, as far as our national defense here in America, what do you think we need to do to improve on that? And obviously, keeping America safe should be priority number one for everyone. What do you think we can do to improve on the defense measures that we have going right now?
Well, I think we need a strong defense. I think we need to try to eliminate waste and abuse in the Defense Department. We need to be smart about where we provide the resources and try to, limit the costs. But we need to have a strong defense. We need to have a strong Navy. The Navy is, number of ships are way down. I believe that we need a strong Navy, and we need to still advance research in defense because there's a lot of people out there that hate us, and they're, striving to get nuclear weapons and all that kind of thing. And well, we just need to keep our defenses strong.
Do you think the current administration is kind of somewhat soft on the terrorist problems that we have right now? We're kind of dealing with people with white gloves on.
Oh, yeah, I do, Wayne. I mean, don't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm just a little bit afraid of the tone the president's setting, and it makes us appear weak, I think.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think on top of that, we also are alienating our allies like Israel by constantly pandering to some of these terrorists.
Right. I mean, they're the only democracy in the Mideast, and then we've sort of been, insulting them, and I think it's just wrong.
All right. And so, how have you enjoyed this campaign, Troy? I know that, like you said, this is the first time you've done this. What are some of the highs and some of the lows of campaigning?
Well, it's been a lot of fun meeting all the people. That's the most fun, is talking to people and listening to their ideas, really. I mean, people have ideas if you're willing to listen, and I've learned a lot, that's for sure.
All right.
And that's been the most fun. What gets long is sometimes is the travel. We have a very large district.
Right.
And, we have to travel, hundreds of miles to get where we're going, you know what I mean?
Right. What, for people who want to know more about you and obviously might want to support your campaign, what's the website address they can go to?
It's BenishekForCongress.com. That's BenishekForCongress.com, and then you can see where I stand on the issues, and I'd appreciate if you agree with me that you consider me for your vote.
All right. Let's give them that website address one more time because I want people to hear it, because I think, again, people need to know how important it is to support candidates throughout the country, because, again, they might not live in your district as they didn't live in it before, and it ended up being one of the biggest, most important votes ever being passed in our country. So, again, give them the website address so they know they can go on there and check you out and support you.
It's BenishekForCongress.com. BenishekFor Congress.com, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you so much. Well, Dr. Dan, I'm wishing you the best of luck on this campaign. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You're more than welcome to come back, and I look forward to seeing you in Congress, sir.
All right. Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate your time.
All right. You have a blessed day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And again, people, the reason why I bring on these different guests and hoping that people across the country are listening is because the fact is that you can live across anywhere in the country, and these votes they cast affect us all. So it's important that we get out and support these candidates throughout the country, and not just in your district, because it can have effects for everyone. We're seeing a lot of dirty tricks being played right now with the liberals. They've exposed Alan West's Social Security number, doing things that are just unscrupulous. You're talking about potential all kind of fraud and things that could happen to him and his family because of that. And again, those are the same old tricks, and I think it just shows their desperation that none of these candidates that are running for Congress are talking about the health care bill and the stimulus bills that they voted for. if anything, the only people that are talking about it are the ones that voted against it, as a way to almost stick their chest out and say that they didn't go for the okie doke. But you have these candidates from across the country, Democrats, that aren't having Obama come in and do too much, rallying for him. And again, they're not talking about the bills that they're passed and the issues. So what they do is they try to find ways to get people off those issues, call people racist, call people, get people thinking about other things besides that. The way that Harry Reid this week tried to pass that DREAM Act during this lame duck session, trying to pass things only to nothing more to get votes. He knew that bill probably wasn't going to pass, but now he can go back to Nevada and say, look, I tried to get things done, but the people in D.C. just aren't doing it right now. And again, that's just the way the grass votes in a heavily Hispanic area that he's in, and that's what he does. And that's the game the Democrats play. They play, they don't care about minorities. They care about their votes. They're not looking to advance their cause. They just need them to vote for them in November. And after that, they can go back to doing whatever they're doing. But we have to realize that and call it for what it is. And I just think that we need credible leaders on both sides. Again, I was very shocked to see the way the so-called establishment attacked after O'Donnell in Delaware when she had won the primary, and these guys weren't willing to support him. Her candidate actually called President Obama and his people before he actually called and congratulated her, and I don't know if he ever did call. And again, it's just the way that these establishment candidates on both sides of the aisle, they're playing a personal game, a fraternity. It's like a fraternity that they're in, and they don't want to let anybody else in it. They want to keep the same people in place that are creating the same bad policies, again, on both sides of the aisle. And I think that it's refreshing and it's good to see what the Tea Party is doing because, again, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take people thinking outside of the box, people thinking that it's possible to do things the right way, be strong on the Constitution. A lot of people, I'm getting a lot of flack for saying lately that we need to get rid of there's a lot of departments that we could cut down on or get rid of. Department of Education is one where I don't know if it's effectively done anything, and that's a state-right responsibility, a big bureaucratic institution that wastes money. A large portion of the IRS, if we simplified the tax code, it wouldn't be necessary to have such a big and intrusive IRS. The DEA, and again, these are things these are ideas that you put out there, and then you see what works. Mexico is talking about legalizing marijuana strictly for the fact that they're killing people over there. I mean, if it's causing more crime and destruction than it is than worth enforcing on, then maybe you ought to look at some of these things because in the urban community, a lot of the murders and things of that nature are done over drug crimes. And so, when you start looking at who's locked up, and in particular, a large portion of the people are nonviolent drug offenders. We spend a lot of money and a lot of resources on things that we might need to reevaluate in a time when we don't have those kind of funds available. I know the Republican Party is not going to be a big fan of this, but maybe some of the things we spend on in the military, some of the projects that we do might not be able to be done right now. We can't say we're going to cut spending in just one area, whether it be social programs or something like that. There needs to be some things looked at around the board that people need to do to start changing the way we're living here in America. That's the bottom line, is that we all as a country, we have all lived off this credit situation, and it's allowed for everyone, including the banks, including the government, to spend in a way because we don't spend enough time looking at how we spend dealing with our own finances. We're doing things that our grandparents and our great-grandparents didn't do as far as spending habits, and it's really we've got to take that our social responsibility to challenge our leaders to spend responsibly. They're not going to stop spending all the way around, but as a country, we need to figure out things to do to get this country back on the right footing. I don't believe it's the role of government to create the jobs. I live in a district where Gary Peters, who was one of his pets, I would consider one of Obama's pets, I am trapped in my neighborhood. There's so much construction going on right now, and every major street there's construction, and then all of them have those American Recovery Act signs, just to remind me of the money that we're wasting. The signs itself, tearing up roads that might not have, nothing was really wrong with them, was things that could have waited, but because, we get this money, we got to spend it. It's burning a hole in our pocket. And, we got to bail out schools and teachers' unions because so what's going to happen next year? I mean, we paid the bill for a year, and that's what's going on with a lot of these jobs that were created with these stimulus funds, is that they're going to be there for a year, and then what's going to happen next year? They're going to need another bailout. They're going to be asking for some more money. You're putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole, a bullet wound. That doesn't work. It won't work. It might alleviate something temporarily, but it's not going to work. You can't buy out jobs that people that need to be funded and need to be operated on with profitability. That's the way government works. We're printing up money now. At some point, our money is not going to be worth anything. I live near the Canadian border. It used to be a big deal to go shopping over there because your money was going to be worth so much more. Now, our money is either equal to or less than over in Canada. That is where people need to wake up and realize what printing money and these bailouts and these kind of things are doing to our economy. Slowly but surely our money is becoming worth less, and we're printing up money with nothing behind it. It's not worth the paper it's written on, but that's what we're doing right now. And financially, those are the things I have an issue with. Personally, Obama has his ways, he does his things, but I just think that he thinks his biggest responsibility is to take care of everybody, and the government, that's their job, and their job is to pay for everything without any idea of how we're going to get the money back. Almost like, well, I'm not going to worry about that. It won't affect me while I'm around. And, at the very least, if I'm here for 4 years, I'm going to do some things to try to turn things around, really leave another mess for someone else to come clean up. But I assure you that I hope that whoever that next person is will not continually blame his predecessor. So it'll be very interesting. I'm looking forward to, again, we're going to see who's going to be some of the new leaders coming up in 2010, people like Alero Pantano, Sean Beelet. I'm going to have all those guys back on the show real soon because, again, we need to have people that are really running to change the country, to get things back on the right direction. People that are going to be constitutionally strong. That's almost like, something that's extinct. These guys laugh at that. Who cares about that? And I think that's a bigger issue is that, these guys aren't going by what the Constitution says, which is like following a pastor that does not follow the Bible. What does that really do for you? What good is that person? So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens and how things develop over here the next this election cycle in 2012. You're going to really see a lot more people stepping up to the plate that want to help America get back on the right track. So I want to thank everybody that's listening. If you can, go to my website, conservativescool.com. If you like the show and you listen in, feel free to go to the donate page sometimes. And like I said, donate $5. It helps with the equipment and giving better broadcast and sometimes being able to get to some of these events. So I appreciate everyone that listens in. This is the weekly news, and this is your host, Wayne Bradley, telling you thank you for listening in. Go visit conservativescool.com. Thank you, and have a blessed day.